The Tamar Valley Line runs for 14 miles and begins right here in Britain's ocean city of Plymouth. And we see this GWR Sprinter pulling into platform 3. There are some slight variations between the summer and winter timetable, but on average the train makes 9 return journeys to Gunnislake between Mondays and Fridays, with 8 on a Saturday and 5 on a Sunday. The journey lasts for about 45 minutes, and the first part of the journey takes you through the suburbs to the west of Plymouth. First stop for the train is at Devonport Station, which opened in 1859 and was built to serve the needs of workers and visitors to the nearby naval base at Devonport Dockyard. As a small child, I lived a couple of minutes walk away from this station, and this was where I caught my first train, which was to Gunnislake back in 1966. As the train departs from Devonport Station, it enters the Devonport Tunnel, which is 117 yards long, and carries the train through to the next destination, the next station on the line, at Dockyard, or as I remember it from my childhood, Dockyard Hold. I remember Dockyard Station very well because I would often come here train spotting after school. And the station opened in 1905 by the Great Western Railway, and today it is a request stop. After leaving Dockyard Station, the train crosses the St Leven's Road viaduct before it enters Keam Station, which was built and opened by the GWR in 1900. The station is ideally situated for naval personnel working in nearby HMS Drake, and the station also had extensive goods sidings at one time. After crossing the Western Mill Viaduct, the train leaves the GWR main line and goes on to the former Plymouth, Devonport and South Western Junction Railway at St Budo, Victoria Road. It's here that the train staff must collect a token from a secure cabinet on the platform before the train is able to proceed on the branch line out into the Tamar Valley itself. I've taken a more detailed look at all of the railway stations in Plymouth from the city to the suburbs, and there's a video available now on my Facebook page and YouTube channel at Stephen Bennett Railways. The first stop out in the Tamar Valley is here at Bere Ferrers station. Villages like Bere Ferrers have changed little over the years, and if you take away the cars, you could easily be back in the 19th century. In fact, this feeling is enhanced by the charming old-style signage here. It's beautiful. Walking down the platform on the left-hand side is the Tamar Valley Heritage Centre, where I took a holiday. Bed and breakfast is available in a couple of ex-LNER teak carriages, and there's also Pullman-style dining aboard a former BR restaurant car. Other artefacts include a yard crane originally in place at Tavistock station, along with a turntable and a pump trolley. I particularly like these couple of Hunslet diesel locomotives, which are shunted up and down a demonstration line. If you would like to see more, why not check out my video, A Devon Rail Holiday at the Tamar Valley, which is available now on my Facebook page and YouTube channel, Stephen Bennett Railways. This station here at Bere Ferrers was the scene of a fatal railway accident in 1917 when 10 soldiers from New Zealand were killed. They were being transported from Plymouth to their base in Salisbury, and the train they were travelling on made an unscheduled stop here at Bere Ferrers station, and not being accustomed to British railways, the troops alighted from the train on the wrong side onto the opposite track and were struck and killed by an oncoming express train. The men are buried in a war cemetery in Plymouth, and I was really moved by this memorial which is in place here at the station, and a plaque has also been unveiled in the village centre. When the station was first opened in 1890, the original name of the station was Bere Ferrers, and you can see the original name here on the signal box. But just 7 years later, the railway authorities of the time decided that that name promoted an unrefined image of the village due to its association with beer, and therefore the name of the station was changed to Bere Ferrers. This is Bere Alston station, and the station was opened in 1890 by the Plymouth, Devonport and South Western Junction Railway to connect its station at Lidford to Plymouth, and it provided an alternative means of accessing Plymouth other than from the Great Western Railway. And at that time there was a connection between Lidford and London Waterloo, so in effect there was a direct link between London and Plymouth via this route. But the line unfortunately has suffered quite badly as a result of the beaching cuts in the 1960s. First of all, we lost the section between Gunnislake and Callington, and Gunnislake is now the terminus of the Tamar Valley Line, and trains have to reverse here at Bere Alston, so they come up from Plymouth to here and then reverse out onto the other line to Gunnislake, and they actually change the points here. Also in 1968 the section between Oakhampton and here closed, and so that involved Tavistock, which is about 5 miles down the track from here, so there are buffers at the end of this station and trains can go no further. But there has been a very active campaign to reopen that section of track. Tavistock has been really built up over the years, a lot of new houses and lots of new businesses there, and the government have supposedly provided or earmarked funding as of the end of 2023 for that section to be reopened at some stage in the future. There's been a lot of feasibility studies done, and we do remain hopeful that that section of track can at least be reopened. It's well over 50 years ago now that the axe came down on the southern railway route from Plymouth to Exeter via this station at Bere Alston through to Tavistock and Oakhampton. Just beyond the platform are the buffers, which marks the end of the line, which originally ran through to Tavistock. The line from Plymouth was reduced to just a single track in September 1970, and the junction was changed. And you can see here the spur to the left carries trains to Plymouth, and to the right trains to Gunnislake. Trains entering the station at Bere Alston have to reverse, and here's the train guard using the ground frame to adjust the points. And the train at the platform has just come along the left-hand spur from Plymouth and will be heading down the right-hand spur towards Calstock and Gunnislake. Originally, Bere Alston station had separate up and down platforms on a double-track main line. When the branch line to Calstock, Gunnislake and Callington was opened in 1908, a separate platform face was built, and it would have been on the right-hand side of the picture here. You can get a sense of just what a busy junction Bere Alston was back in the day from these archive photographs. The signal box on the disused platform closed in 1970, but a few years ago it was restored at a cost of just over £20,000. The box originally had 30 levers to control the station, the junction and the adjacent sidings. It's now used by scouts from Bere Alston as a base in their work to improve the planters on the disused platform and around the station. As the train returns to Bere Alston station, I'm continuing my journey along the Tamar Valley Line, and the next stop is Calstock with its magnificent railway viaduct. Well, I'm now at Calstock station, which was opened in 1908, and it was opened by the Plymouth, Devonport and South Western Junction Railway, and it opened shortly after the magnificent Calstock viaduct, just over to my left, was completed. Building work took nearly 4 years to complete. It's 120 feet wide, crossing the River Tamar, and it brings trains from Devon into Cornwall. And it has a magnificent 12 60-foot wide arches. It's an incredible structure. And this is part of the Tamar Valley Line, so trains are heading to Gunnislake in that direction and back to Plymouth in that direction. And originally, when the railway opened in 1908, it carried traffic from Bere Alston through to Callington, but the Callington part of the line closed in 1966. The viaduct did have a hoist system where wagons could be lowered down to the quay below for goods to be loaded onto boats, and likewise when the wagons were lifted there was a connection to the goods yard just over to my right here where goods could then be unloaded and put onto trains, but all of that was dismantled back in the 1930s. The station is well used with just over 30,000 passengers a year.
I always remember as a youngster when taking the train to Gunnislake, this was one of the most exciting parts of the journey, crossing this wonderful viaduct at Calstock. Sometimes we would get off the train at Calstock and take a walk of just over a mile or so along the banks of the River Tamar and then up through the woods to the Calstock estate. What is 50 years or so later, and I've retraced my steps, and I've just taken this shot of the Class 150 Sprinter crossing the viaduct. It's on its way back to Bere Alston, and it's a view I remember so well from so many years ago. Visits to Calstock and to Calstock House were always a favourite of mine as I was growing up, and I've now made a video which is available to watch. It's called Calstock, a village, a viaduct and a vintage home. It's available now on my Facebook page and YouTube channel, Stephen Bennett Railways. Well, there's just one more stop to make now along the line, and that is at Gunnislake, but I'm not going by train. I'm going to put my walking boots on because there's a couple of level crossings between Calstock and Gunnislake that I'd like to take a closer look at. Well, I've taken a walk of about 15 minutes to the northeast of Calstock to the O'Keltor level crossing. Earlier this year, Colas Rail's UK signalling team completed safety upgrade work both on this crossing along with the crossing at Sandways near Gunnislake. The two crossings originally had give way signs, but there were no lights, and there had been a couple of incidents where vehicles had struck trains. Previously, trains needed to slow down on the approach to these crossings and to sound their horn as a warning to pedestrians and traffic. The improvements have seen automatic active protection in place with lights and alarms to warn users that a train is approaching. Well, I can hear the screeching of the wheels as a train has left Calstock station on the approach to the crossing. So let's take a look at the crossing in operation. I've now walked on to the other level crossing on this stretch of line at Sandways, which is just over a mile or so from Gunnislake Station. A similar range of safety features have been installed here, but barriers could not be installed at Sandways because of the possibility that traffic might queue across a main road, and also at O'Kelter because the site was not large enough. The crossings are therefore classed as automatic open crossings, which are locally monitored by the train crew due to the constraints of each of the sites.
Well, this is Gunnislake Station, which is the terminus of the Tamar Valley Line that starts in Plymouth and comes through Devon and into Cornwall. And passenger services started on this line in 1908 when the Calstock viaduct was completed, and the railway used to run further on to Callington, but that part of the line was closed as part of the beaching cuts in 1966. And the platform in those days was across the opposite side of the main road. But in 1994, this platform was created and the road bridge that went across the road was demolished. And passenger numbers using the station are around 50,000 a year. And it's a very popular line and a very scenic railway.
The last trains to call at the old Gunnislake station was on the 29th of January 1994, and the following day the road bridge at the top of Sand Hill was removed and this new station was opened on the former site of the old Perry Spears siding. This is the first time that I've been to this platform because when I originally caught a train to Gunnislake, I got off at the original 1908 platform, which was in Station Road to the northwest of Sand Hill on the opposite side of the A390 main road. There were a considerable number of freight trains using this line given the numerous mines and quarries in this part of southeast Cornwall, and these operated from 1908 when the line first opened until the withdrawal of freight facilities in 1966 with the closure of the line between Gunnislake and Callington. With the closure of the original 1908 station and demolition of the road bridge across the A390 main road, these buffers now mark the end of the line here on the 1994 platform at Gunnislake. Over the years, the Plymouth to Gunnislake line has provided a vital transport link for residents of the beautiful but difficult to reach and very rural Tamar Valley. For me personally, it's been a journey full of memories and nostalgia, and standing in the very same places on the very same platforms that I stood on as a youngster really does bring a tear to the eye. Arguably the highlight of any journey along the Tamar Valley Line for me is when the train slowly creeps along the Calstock viaduct 120 feet above the river below, and looking out of the train window and seeing the National Trust estate at Calstock nestled in the woods, it's really unforgettable.
Well, that's it for this journey along the Tamar Valley Line between Bere Ferrers and Gunnislake. It's a journey that certainly brought back a lot of memories for me, because it would have been the late 1960s, I think, when I first travelled this line, and a lot of the magic is still there. This station, for example, Bere Ferrers, is really beautiful, and it evokes memories of times gone by. But the line is so peaceful, it's so quiet, it's so relaxing. It's a beautiful branch line, and I would thoroughly recommend a journey on this line. The Calstock viaduct is as spectacular as ever, and the views along the river up to Coteal are spectacular. So I hope you've enjoyed watching the video, and that you'll join me for another one from Devon and Cornwall very soon. But thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. Take care. Bye bye.